Hello and welcome to The Lucky Roll, an eclectic channel for eclectic games. And today we're looking at Bragging Rights, a game by Fickle games for 3 to 7 players. Now this is a prototype version of the game, which means it hasn't come out on Kickstarter yet. However, it is one I would strongly suggest you keep an eye on because it has incredible potential. The pitch of the game is very simple. You are a band of motley criminals hanging around in a bar, when all of a sudden news of a crime that has just happened comes out. And you, being the inept criminal you are, decide to take credit for this crime. Unfortunately, everyone else at the same table as you does exactly the same thing. So you're all competing to see whose story is the most convincing and who, at the end of the day, takes credit for the crime of the century. If you'd like to know more, let's have a look at the pieces. Each player is given a character profile whose characteristics they will embody and weave into their story. Each player is then given street cred tokens equal to the amount of players plus 1. So for example, 3 players would get 4 street cred tokens, 4 players would get 5, and so on. A crime card is then drawn from the deck of crimes and read aloud. Each player then draws 5 evidence cards, 1 of which will go into the center table, 1 of which will be discarded, and they will keep the remaining 3. All the evidence cards in the center of the table are then shuffled beside the upturned crime card. So in this scenario, the crime that has been committed is that the Titanic shipwreck has gone missing. The first player, as soon as the first piece of evidence has been turned over, must explain how they committed this crime and how an uncooked chicken was left at the scene. The second player must do the same thing but come up with their own unique reasons as to how these two things are related. The same thing with the third player. And when the final player in a round has told their story, the next evidence card is turned up and everyone must update their story as to how a mini hammock was also included in the crime. And that is my favorite part of this game, the stories. This is a game that gives you moments of absolute ingenuity from different players at different times. There are points where I was absolutely gobsmacked at the brilliance and the creativity of some of my fellow players. In fact, sometimes they were so good, despite ourselves, we gave a spontaneous round of applause. This, to me, is magical in a game like this. One final mechanic in the game is the challenge. If, for example, a part of my story doesn't add up, another player may challenge me on its inconsistency by asking a specific question and placing a street cred token down as a wager. I then have to match this wager and justify my inconsistency and convince everyone that I'm still telling the truth. The challenger then begins a countdown, and the remaining players point at the person they think who won the challenge. The winner then gets to keep the street cred tokens. Once the final evidence card has been explained, players then vote whose story was their favourite, be it the best, most consistent or funniest tale of the evening. So whoever makes the best job of explaining how the Titanic shipwreck went missing and left behind an uncooked chicken, a Russian doll and a basket of kittens gets to take credit for the crime. The person who takes credit for the crime gets a massive 5 street cred tokens, and the player with the most tokens at the end of the game wins. This game shares characteristics with another game called Fun Employed, where the aim of that game is that you're chasing a job. You're given a lot of bizarre attributes, and the challenge for you is to turn those bizarre attributes into a positive characteristic as to why you should get that job. With this, it's keeping your story straight and reconciling it with all the silly, bizarre pieces of evidence that come up during the crime spree. If you enjoyed Fun Employed, then you will have an absolute blast at this game, because this game gives you more creative freedom. This game gives you more of an investment in a direct story of your making. And this game, I think, has a potential to be a lot funnier because there's more player interaction, direct player interaction, which, depending on how embodied in the character you have, can be great fun. That's the game's greatest strength. However, it can also be its only weakness. If you play this game with people who are not, say, good at storytelling, people who are a bit shy, or people who quite simply don't know each other that well, it can be a bit of a struggle to get through the game because people are afraid to have fun. If, however, you're playing this with friends who all have a similar vibe or who all have the same silly sense of humor, then this game can be an absolute blast. I mean, we had some very fun and memorable moments when we were playtesting this game with the group. And that, I think, is the secret to this game. The players and the people you play it with. To sum up, this game in its present form is very vague on the rules. Now, I don't know if that's because it's in a prototype stage or if it's a deliberate choice by the designers. If it's a deliberate choice by the designers, then I would say it's a good choice, because what it does is it allows for more creative freedom. The emphasis of this game, I think, should be on the fun as opposed to the competitiveness. So the less rules there are, the more creative you can be, the more house rules you can implement. So even if you have, say, weaker storytellers, you can make the game slightly easier for them. Or if you have exceptionally good storytellers, you can ratchet up the challenge for them. It's a game that will definitely flex your creative muscle, and it's a game that will definitely give you a good few laughs. If you see it in Kickstarter, I would suggest you strongly give it a good look. And if you buy it, I would even suggest that maybe you come up with an interesting story as to how you actually stole it. Until next time, this is Sean from The Lucky Roll. If you enjoyed the review, please like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff, because it really does help keep the channel alive. And until next time, good luck and God bless.